I believe that there have been tons of reviews for Burnout Paradise Remastered on Switch that don't really address many things that I think someone should know before considering to buy it or not. I'm not used to reviewing games, so I'll do my best here. If I can give a very quick summary to save time, I think if you don't already have the game on Switch by this point, you probably shouldn't bother. I should also mention that because I have a Switch Lite which has no video output, you'll only see some clips here and there that I saved using the Switch's capture software. Bear in mind that the quality you see is worse than what the actual game looks like because of the capture software. You'll also see some footage from the PC version of the game. Burnout Paradise was one of the most expansive and innovative open world racing games period. This review is a review of the Switch port and not of the original game. If I can very quickly say what I think about Burnout Paradise as a whole, I think it's a masterful game that ticks off all the boxes. No game is perfect and neither is Burnout Paradise, but the game is well worth your time. The different event variety with the different boost types give you this blend of fast driving and avoiding traffic, smashing into opponent cars, and pulling off stunts. There really isn't much of a story, but there is context provided for the gameplay. You start out with the learner's license and you want to obtain the best license with the fastest cars. The multiplayer was revolutionary for racing games. I could go on and on. Burnout Paradise is a fantastic game, but how's the Switch port? Starting with performance, I've heard many say that the game runs at a solid 60 with little to no frame drops, and that's just not true. There are certain parts of the map where frame rate is guaranteed to drop, and showtime feels like it's always in the mid-40s. Now, it could be that this occurs more often on the Switch Lite, but I've seen it happen on the base model too. The game does dynamically alter resolution so that it can keep up with areas that are more demanding on the Switch's hardware, but it clearly doesn't do this enough in certain places. If you buy this game, you will notice it, and you will honestly encounter it a fair bit. That being said, it's nowhere near being a major issue. The game doesn't slow itself down as the speed of the game isn't tied to the frame rate, and the drops aren't massive. Do frame drops exist? Yes. Are they normal? Yes. Are they annoying? Not really. I should also mention how the game looks. I know there are PC elitists who are going to badmouth the Switch port because it runs at 720p in handheld and has drops in resolution every so often. I still think it looks fantastic. Considering the Switch Lite's small screen, pixel density means that 720p isn't so bad, and I'm certain that it's not that bad on the normal Switch either. I know the game doesn't look perfect, but considering the hardware it's running on, and considering that it's a portable game, it looks fantastic. If you're here to cry about visuals, I really can't sympathize with you. As for controls, the fact that the Switch and Switch Lite don't have analog triggers at first would sound like a total deal breaker, but it really isn't. Paradise is on the very arcade side of the racing game spectrum, and the lack of analog triggers isn't a huge deal. It can be annoying and definitely is annoying at times. The game is designed for you to tap the brakes and drift around corners as the main way of getting through corners fast. Because of this, trying to hit the brakes at high speed without making your car unstable is sometimes impossible. On other ports, you can ease on the brakes so they don't cause you to initiate into a drift. The solution I found is to make sure your car is completely straight and not turning at all before hitting the brakes, and not turning while braking. The analog sticks also feel a bit too small for precise maneuvers, but it still feels very good nonetheless. When it comes to online play, I can only assume that it works as normally, because I don't have Nintendo Switch Online. That being said, there are a lot of times when my friends are having trouble connecting to the servers, so I just assume that it's not perfect. I noticed that there's an odd audio glitch that happens whenever there's too much stuff going on at the same time. Maybe the Switch's CPU can't handle processing audio when so much of it is being used at the same time. I really don't know what's going on here, and it's not fantastic. So far I've talked about the negatives of the port, and unfortunately there's a lot more ground to cover. There are a number of issues that the remastered ports of the game brought about, and surprisingly, Stellar Entertainment doesn't seem to be bothered to fix them for the Switch port 2 years later. The fact that they didn't update the game for the other consoles and PC should have been a red flag, but I thought that maybe with the new release, more issues would be fixed. There is the odd fix here and there, but don't expect anything special. For starters, accessing road rules for the top times in the world is impossible. A friend and I were having a friendly competition to see what was the best time we could get on the road Han's way. Eventually we started getting curious and wanted to see what the best times were. To our surprise, the best times are inaccessible and grayed out. On Switch, The issue is still present and they didn't fix it. There are mods for the PC port that fix the game, where not so stellar entertainment failed to. Another issue that might seem minor but really disappointed me is that the Toy P88 Special has the incorrect weight in hover mode and is too heavy. I at first thought this was a conscious change by Stellar Entertainment and that maybe they thought it was too broken previously. I bet over half my playtime on my PS3 copy of the game was spent pulling off massive jumps of the Toy P88. Once the game died down a bit, it was the only reason I would boot up Paradise. It was comical, ridiculous, and a bit broken, which is why I loved it and why it was perfect for Burnout Paradise. Back when Criterion would promote Big Surf Island, they would show the Toy P88 getting massive air in their public trailers on YouTube. So I really don't think the original weight of the car is a glitch, and nor do I think the new weight is a correction. On the modded PC port footage you should see just how much of a difference it makes. The mod gives the car the original weight. Unfortunately, it's unlikely that we'll ever see it get fixed for the Switch port. I want to mention one more issue that didn't get fixed. I know there are plenty more, but this one's the last one I want to mention. In the remaster, the Toy GT Nighthawk doesn't make the distinctive sound that it does when boosting. Personally, I found the sound incredibly annoying, so this issue doesn't bother me. In fact, I prefer to have this issue rather than having it fixed. Luckily for me it wasn't fixed, but that doesn't mean it's not an issue that got neglected. As for stuff you probably already know, the 2 missing songs from the other parts of the remaster are also missing, and some classic glitches from the original game return. The Carson Extreme Hot Rod is still called the Hunter Extreme Hot Rod, but that should be the least of anyone's worries. The most glaring issue with this part of the game is that it has a $50 price tag, and no touchscreen capabilities make it worth the price. There's no reason for a 2-year-old remaster of a 12-year-old game to cost $50 when it didn't even fix half the issues that the other ports of the remaster had. That being said, I've seen many people mention that they only paid $5 for the PS4, Xbox One, or PC ports of the game, and because of the difference in price they won't get the Switch port. My question to you is, why do you care if you already have the game? I understand that maybe you want a portable version of the game, but understand that you aren't the target demographic anymore. This game is not for you. The goal of EA is to sell Burnout Paradise Remastered, not certain ports of the game. If you go out and buy the PS4 version instead of the Switch because of the price, that's what you're supposed to do. That's what's supposed to happen. People who have PS4s and Xbox One should be getting those ports of the game, because they're visually superior and more cost effective. The Switch port is for people who only have Nintendo consoles and have never experienced the game, or for those insane enough to cough up the cash for it, because they know they'll appreciate a portable version of the game regardless of its price, and that's the category I fall in. I have no reason to like this port of the game whatsoever. The Switch port has worse graphics, performance, and audio. The joysticks and digital triggers make the game's controls feel worse. There's still issues that haven't been fixed with the remaster. People have trouble connecting to the game's servers, and it's outrageously expensive. That being said, I don't regret my purchase at all, and I've been thoroughly enjoying Burnout Paradise all over again. The graphics are worse, but it still looks great on the Switch Lite's small screen, and I bet it would still look great on the original console screen. There are frame rate drops, but it doesn't ruin the experience. The audio issue hardly affects the experience at all. The joysticks and digital triggers do make things a little bit more difficult, but it's nothing that I couldn't get used to. There's still issues that Stellar Entertainment didn't fix, but none of them were game breaking. Some have had problems connecting online, but people have been able to connect and play online eventually. The $50 price tag is very steep, but considering all the game's content and sheer quality, I think the actual value is well over $60. All of these issues don't ruin the experience for me, and it's important to remember what I said here. For me, I consider this to be a mediocre job of porting what I think is a fantastic game. If you're the kind of person who heard rumors of Paradise on Switch and thought in your head that you'd get it regardless of the price, this game's for you. If you're the kind of person who thinks a portable version of Burnout Paradise is worth sacrificing visuals and performance here and there, this game's for you. If you could see yourself finding all smashes, billboards, and super jumps within one day of the game's release without any guides like I did, this game's for you. Some of my friends find Paradise to be boring and I can't blame them. The game does get repetitive, but for me it never felt repetitive. Other complaints, like people complaining about the lack of fast travel, don't make any sense to me. Races in this game depend heavily on map knowledge, and you won't learn the map if you're fast traveling everywhere. The issues with this game that most people have don't affect me on a subjective level. I just finished taking an online college class, and there were times when my brain was fried after solving some triple integral spherical coordinate nonsense. Being able to get into a stunt run or a road rage within seconds is priceless. It's not just a game anymore. When I think about it, I use it as a tool. Like I said at the start of the video, if you don't already have the Switch port of the game, I don't think you should get it because it's not worth your time or your money. If you like Paradise and haven't got your hands on the remaster yet, get the other ports of the game on sale. If you already have the other parts of the game and you didn't already buy the Switch port, what are you doing here? If you only game on a Nintendo console and have never played Burnout Paradise, or you're a complete fanatic and you don't care about the price, visuals, or minor performance issues, you won't be disappointed.